Well, the first one is the most obvious one, which is curiosity. And it's a positive one. If you're interested in other cultures, if you're interested in knowing and working with others, the best way to do it is to move to that geography and work in a different institution. So I'll start with the latest example. I work at DBS, which is largely a Singaporean institution with a lot of Singaporeans working there. So although I have been working in Singapore for a very long time, my previous jobs, particularly the one at Deutsche Bank, did not entail interacting with Singaporeans as intensively as I do now. Itself is an eye-opener. The ethos, the beliefs, the work ethic are all different in a positive way, but it's different nonetheless that require calibration adjustment. And therefore, I think to embrace all that, one would have to be positively curious. So it's not just curiosity that I'm looking at something that I was not familiar with, but rather I'm curious with a degree of humility and positivity that there are other cultures and ethos and backgrounds that I can learn from and I can grow from. Second attribute I would say would be the importance of buy-in. And by that I mean the family buy-in. When you are shifting jobs or geographies, you can't just drag your loved ones kicking and screaming because they may or may not be okay subsequently, but it could create tension down the road if things don't go according to your plan because you are sort of making everybody go out on your whim. I think it was very important the first move. When we left the US, both myself and my wife had tenure track jobs. I was at the IMF, she was at the World Bank. And I think for the third time I'm saying this in this interview, nobody really leaves those jobs ever. So for me to convince my wife to give up that very comfortable life in Washington, DC and move to Singapore, a different part of the world, and embrace the uncertainty, the glorious uncertainty of private sector, where you may or may not keep your job forever, I think was something that was not easy at all. It took a while, and I think I can safely recall and assert that my wife basically came to Singapore with the idea that 1 or 2 years and we'll go back. And 13 years later, we're still here. But it was important. It was super important to get a buy-in of the family and made into a collective decision because while it all worked out, what if it hadn't? I think it would have led to undue tension if the buy-in was not there. The third lesson or third to-do, if I may share, in terms of what is imperative in shifting from place to place, is to have a very good sense of what you're getting into. Now, it's easy to say. There's always unknown because you don't know unless you work in a place whether it's a fit or not. But there is a type of information that we generally gather before starting a job. I think if one is moving geographies and substantive type moves like going from public sector to private sector, I think one needs to ask additional set of questions. And it's not just related to finances or logistics. It's really about the ethics and ethos of the organization one is moving to. If you feel that the new place you are moving to speaks a language that you have absolutely no comprehension of, I think it might be a challenging place to get attuned to. So on one hand, of course, we are going to a place that is unknown and we will encounter things that one has to learn and adapt to. But at the same time, if it is absolutely incomprehensible at the onset, then no amount of financial lore or position ought to be sufficient, in my view at least. So I guess the bottom line there is, yes, embrace the new, but can't really embrace the incomprehensible.